Hello again. This is lesson 11 on the 8th programming language. Today we are talking about general program structure. So far we've only used the REPL, the 8th interactive console. But in order to create real programs we need an editor. For our purpose, a simple plain text editor is the best. Here I have a list which I show you of freely available text editors. You should be aware that you should stay away from text processing programs like Microsoft Word, WordPad, OpenOffice, LibreOffice, etc. Don't use them, because 8th will be confused. In 8th we have a particular program structure. We have to define a word first before we are going to use it. Also, we need to define variables before we are going to use them. In an official 8th program which will be packaged, you need to use the special word app:main, which is the entry point of the program. It's something like the main function in a C program. Normally the app main definition should end with the by word, which is to end 8th. But there are two valid exceptions. In GUI apps, quitting 8th will be done elsewhere, so you don't need the by, and by the way, you shouldn't use by, because then your program would end prematurely. The second reason is for debugging reasons. In version 16.01 onwards, there will be a word available to start the REPL from within a running program. That way you can debug your program. The normal workflow for an 8th programmer is like such. You open a text editor, and also you open a command prompt or terminal. You switch to the directory where your source is stored. Then you start creating, adding or modifying a small piece of code in your text editor. It is very important never to change a big piece of your program. Just test little pieces bit by bit. At point 5 I mentioned that your program can be started with the command 8th followed by the name of your program. Then you check the results of your program and you go back to create, add or modify a small piece of code. Now a first little program. We start with defining and activating a new namespace. You see that we freely add comments, which are preceded by the backslash, which is an 8th word and thus has to be followed by a space. Okay, now we define a function called squared. And when we do that, we use a command to introduce a stack effect diagram, as you can see. So there should be a number already on the stack when squared is invoked. That number will be duplicated, then it will be multiplied and the result will be back on the stack. Then the dot word will print that result and will consume that result, so the stack is empty again. And the CR word will create a new line. That's our word definition. Now we switch back to the default namespace with ns:\g. Beware that in version 16.01 it will be user. The namespace user will be the default. And then we tell 8th to search for words and variables also in the namespace at array.space. That's the with word. Then we introduce the app:main word, which is a special word and which tells 8th to start executing here. And then we invoke the squared function for several values. And we end with saying bye. Okay, We have created our program. We then open a command prompt or a terminal. We change to the right directory where the source is, and we start a program, like here, 8th squared dot 8th, and we get the results of 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared and 5 squared. That's it. Okay, a little about namespaces. As I already mentioned, the with word makes it possible for 8th to search for words and variables in that namespace as well. If you don't use with, you will need to qualify the defined words and variables like add_array.space :squared. And you should note that it is possible to have the same word or variable name in different namespaces. In that case, the word which is first found in whatever namespace will prevail. So beware. Okay, this is just the beginning, of course, of programming, but you should get acquainted with this stuff and try out small snippets of code from within a text program. And do not hesitate to use the .s word throughout your code. That way you can easily debug and you can always see what's on the stack. Okay, there is more information on the 8th website at www.8th-dev.com. Goodbye for now. Thank you for listening.